We got Jason Hamilton with us today for our Lodge Spotlight here of Scott Lake Lodge. I guess just for everyone listening, kind of introduce yourself and what you do at the lodge.
Well, I'm Jason Hamilton. I'm the manager at Scott Lake Lodge. Been lucky enough to be up there for 13 or 14 years now. Started off guiding. They needed someone to take over in the office, and here we are. Been a pretty amazing ride so far, and can't see an end in sight.
Yeah, well, that's nice when you're not looking for that end in sight. That's how you can tell that you enjoy that job, right? But I guess are you up there the full season?
You bet. Yeah, go up as soon as we can get in on float planes, and then we're up there till third week of September usually by the time we shut things down. Every year we try and do a little bit of a renovation or a project to enhance things, and that's the time that we get to do the building is in the spring before the guests come in the fall.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So I guess for anyone listening, if you do find yourself up there, they're gonna be seeing you for sure, eh?
Yep, you bet.
Awesome. So, and I guess for anyone watching, they're gonna know what to look for because they'll be able to they'll be able to see here. But I guess just kind of I know I've followed Scott Lake Lodge for a while on socials, and I've seen lots of the great stuff that you guys have. But for people that haven't followed you or haven't seen much from there, just give us kind of a brief overview of the lodge, and then I think we should dive into some of the details.
Sure. Well, I mean, the coolest part about Scott Lake, there's two main things that really make it a unique place. It is extremely remote. It's fly-in only. There's no winter roads. You know, we see the odd trapper or caribou hunter comes by the lodge in the winter, but the remoteness of it and the vast area that we get to outfit over, is about 10 million acres of land. Now we just added some more lakes for about 3 million acres of water that we fish. The scale of wilderness that we have is absolutely incredible. Um, Part two makes Scott Lake a special place and unique is the people, the staff, and the customers and the bond that we've kind of created there. We've been able to retain staff far longer than I think uh, a typical college summer job has been, and people have turned this into careers and been able to grow this place. Just amazing, amazing to see the growth of the staff and the relationships between them and the guests.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible looking over your guys' website. For anyone that's listening to this right now, head over there, and it's pretty cool seeing just like you talked about the staff there, watching the videos just for the guides themselves and how long lots of them have been there and everything. And we'll touch on that in a little bit here. But as far as location, where are you guys situated in Canada or Saskatchewan here?
So we're right up on the 60th parallel. The lodge itself sits just inside Saskatchewan, half of Scott Lake, and many of our flyout lakes are in the Northwest Territories. So we're about just a couple miles from the border. So we've got this amazing part of the world to explore.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's what did I see on the website? Was it 20 flyout lakes?
We're up to 26 right now.
Oh,
So
awesome.
the real neat thing about that is my background. At one point, I was a fisheries biologist, and did a little bit of work in that sense for the government. But I'm managing our fishing pressure, so we're not fishing each lake every year or not putting too much pressure. So if we see some statistics, and we keep pretty good stats on how this all goes each year, we'll give that lake a rest for 5 years. We'll fish some other things and then come back to it. And we've had great success with being able to manage our pressure, even though it's such a small amount. It still has an effect. And
Oh, for sure. It's insane when you've got really good guides how much water they can cover going to the best spots, right? And it can break down a lake pretty quick. Not fisheries wise, but it can as far as going to different areas of the lake. That can happen pretty quick. And I think I didn't know that you guys would shut down lakes and stuff like that, but that's pretty cool to hear. I know obviously we were talking trophies and stuff like that, but if you look at how people treated the North 15, 20 years ago even, it was more of a go up there and almost pillage, get your limits,
right,
fill up everything and come
indeed,
back, right?
there's amazing photos of great big pike hanging on shore from the meat pool sort of
Y-
deal. And,
yeah.
we have seen in the last 5 or 6 years, the fishing success for big fish, pike over 40 inches and big lake trout has been as good as it's ever been since we started keeping records. about 25 years ago. And I
Yeah.
really attest that to great catch and release practices by our guide team and trying to just reduce our footprint on these spots.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for anyone that is listening, you can check out your guys' you have a trophy list on your website, correct?
We do indeed, yeah. We try and be real transparent with what was caught each week. Each week has a blog post, and we highlight, sort of the bigger fish of the week and the cool instances. So it's all there for everyone to see.
Yeah, nice and transparent. I know from looking over the website, that's a big thing with you guys is the transparency, and basically what you can expect. Like obviously, there is at any lake there is going to be times that are slower, and that could reflect in those things. But you guys aren't going to be afraid to show that. But I mean, based based on the video, the sheet and everything like that, like it's some pretty insane fishing up there. So I think we should maybe touch on some of the target species that people can expect when they come up to the lodge.
Yeah, our main species that we target are northern pike, lake trout, and Arctic feeling. The pike are just a real cool fish that we get to sight cast for in some of the earlier seasons. You get to see them and stalk them and throw a fly or a bait to them. Then they get into the weeds and some deeper rock structure as the season progresses. Lake trout, we chase those all over the lake because they move so much. They're such a migratory fish. They're up in 2 feet of water in the spring and they're down in 120 feet of water in the midsummer and back up in two in the fall. Grayling, we don't have any on Scott Lake itself, but the rivers that flow out of Scott Lake and into some of the other flyout lakes, we can fish these grayling, walk these beautiful rivers for these real cool, uniquely northern fish. But to your point, there is what sort of success that people can expect. Well, it's what's the weather out that day. If we have good, stable, sunny weather with a south wind, fishing is probably going to be pretty good. If the wind is blowing 50 kilometers from the northeast and it's raining and miserable, fishing is going to
Hmm.
be a lot tougher. So the cool thing that we found out keeping these records, the best week of the season for big fish has been spread out over June, July, August, and September. All 4 months that we operate, we've had the best week for trophy-sized fish. One of those months, just depending on weather and conditions. So that's kind of neat to
No,
see that it's not all packed into spring or fall or
right.
whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not you got to be here in the first three
Yeah,
3 weeks, and those turns out those 3 weeks are booked up for 15 years, right? Like, which is
exactly.
an issue in places.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean, we've got a great following with many return people that have been in the same week for, like you said, 15, 20 years. In 2022, our best week was the third week August.
Okay.
You know, when you typically have that thought that fish are in transition, and sometimes they can be, but the weather lined up and fishing was just incredible.
Yeah, well, and that really goes to show as well because with the experienced guide staff you have, like these aren't new guides coming up every year. You've got guys that have fished this lake for many years, and obviously humans are kind of creatures of habit. So every guide has the spots that they like more than other spots, but it just goes to show that it the way it is every like different weeks every year. That's totally just up to the fishing. It's not up to people going certain places, right? Like guides could take you to certain places. So I think that it's nice going to a place knowing that any that like you could be that week any year.
And we've had, I think like so many places, the summers have been a little bit different the last number of years. You've had some hot, dry stretches, and you've had some colder than normal stretches. Um, it's just that luck of the weather for those 5 days when people visit us is really indicative of the overall fishing success. But I mean, we're truly lucky to have the amount of tenure for our guide team that we do. Because on the tough days, I think that's when it really shines. When it's
Hmm.
fighting wind and waves and trying to find that one hungry fish when when the fish by and large are
Yeah.
not liking the weather any more than we are.
Yeah. And I guess for that talking about dates, what dates do your guys season run?
We start off the first guests arrive June 9th and we go all the way through till September 11th.
Okay. And so in that September, are you guys getting near the spawn there? Like is it start are
We
things
are,
starting to change?
yeah, sort of long-term averages, we're starting to see about September 1st, a lot of the smaller males starting to make their way shallow, and then by that second week of September, we're starting to see some nicer fish most years come up on the
Okay.
reefs, and that's just an incredible time.
Yeah.
One of
Well,
my
I guess
favorites of the year.
should specify the lake trout spawn for for
Yeah,
some of the
yeah,
people. I
you bet.
know most people like as I've seen from my guiding experience too, it's the pike that's the number one attractor, right? So there's kind of we like I like to do, at least myself, some lake trout in the morning and then pike into the afternoon when I'm up in the spring. So it is kind of nice. People come up and pike's the number one attractor, but then they do get to learn some more and see some more at the lake trout. So some people listening, I guess, maybe didn't know that. I didn't want to confuse them and think that pike spawn in the fall.
No, exactly. I think you hit it right on. We have a lot of folks that they're just chomping at the bit to get out there first thing in the morning. We can't wait to get up at sunrise and go catch these pike. Well, you hit it right on. The best pike fishing is when the water warms up a few degrees and those fish get
Hmm.
a little more active in the shallow waters. So doing that lake trout first, and we always try and tell people like let's start leisurely, have a nice breakfast, and then get out there at 9. Let's
Yeah.
we're not gonna we're not gonna see any more success getting out there at 6 when the water's still cold from overnight.
Yeah, and trust me, you're gonna enjoy that nice leisurely start as a guest because those handful of days that you're there, you're having fun, but it is a workout too. Like you're putting lots of work in. Even just you might think, oh, I'm just out there casting or I'm out there trolling. Well, you'll enjoy those 9 a.m. starts and stuff like that. A little bit of a sleep in rather than some fishing trips you're going on. You're starting at 3 or 4 in the morning, and that gets tough after however many days in a row, right? But I guess with that, do you want to touch on some of the history of Scott Lake Lodge? I know it seems like every lodge has a pretty unique history that's specific to just themselves, but what can we expect here with Scott Lake Lodge?
Well, Scott Lake, and my details and dates might be not spot on, but I've got a pretty good idea. In the late 60s, Scott Lake was sort of planned to be a commercial fishery, and they had gone up and did some test fishing and built some structures to try and have a saleable commercial fishery for whitefish. And that didn't work out. There was some parasites in the whitefish, and they were not the grade A fish, so they weren't that high enough grade to go to the trouble to fly them out. And then there's a family named the Woloshins that took things over in the 70s, started a recreational, the sport fishing camp there. It was later bought by the Gangler family, who have done a bunch of outfitting in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and then Tom Klein, who's the owner when I got there in the early 90s, bought the place, and then it's seen some amazing growth. So Tom's in his after 30 years is working into retirement, and now Ron Spork has taken over as the next owner, trying to continue the legacy of Scott Lake. So we've seen incredible amount of growth. So when Tom came here 30 years ago, there was just a handful of buildings. They were just building the main lodge. We've I think renovated every building 2 or 3 times since then on the island and
Hmm.
repurposed a lot of things. We went from the early days when Tom was up there from 3 flyout creeks to 26. And
Yeah.
expanded our fishing network dramatically.
Oh, for sure. And that's it's. I always like hearing that stuff because it is insane how far back some of these places get started. And I'm always so jealous. I'm like, imagine the kind of fishing that it's already incredible right now. Imagine back then. Like it's a pipe dream basically. Like that would have been so cool. And there's not really anywhere that you can really have that anymore, right? Like lots of these great lakes are set up with lodges for a reason now, and it's cool seeing what still comes out of there. And with like you said, with your fisheries background there and the biology, it definitely helps. And I'm sure you noticed it with your time there, just taking care of a resource, how important that is.
It really is. I mean, everything was killed for so many years, and then once the catch and release came in and barbless hooks and just the more of the awareness of fish handling, the sport fish mortality conversation of keeping fish in the water and handling them gently, not holding fish, vertically and weighing them all the time.
Hmm.
And the fish are able to be caught and caught again. And I'm sure, many people have seen this that have been paying attention to fish in these northern lakes. Well, you can see that fish go from 40 inches to 42 inches and caught again at, 45 inches. There are unique markings on pike, and see the guides comparing photos,
Hmm.
over cocktails after. It's like, oh, I caught that one over here like 3 years ago, and it was 43, now it's 45 in this spot. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's what makes it special, and going hand in hand with taking care of that resource. And you were talking about the guides. Do you want to just touch on the incredible crew that you have for guides, and then we can also touch on the hospitality side of things too?
sure. I mean, the just the amazing part of our guide crew is we've had an average time at Scott Lake of over 15 years and average amount guiding over 20 years. So the the experience that we had, the stories they were able to tell, the places they fished, and the things that they've been able to explore, be the first people on these lakes that we've gone to fish is just absolutely amazing. We're, not to speak disparagingly of anyone else, but we're truly lucky we have professionals and they do an absolute first-rate job. Um,
Hmm.
of taking care of our guests and giving them a really unique experience.
Oh, well, yeah, when you, and obviously for not numbers people there, that's average, right? So that means you got guys that have been doing it even longer and have been there even longer, which is insane. Like I guess as a guide myself for the two stints I've done, like we like to bounce around, we like to explore. That's part of the whole allure of a job, right? And so that can lead to people bounce around to different lodges and stuff. But I'm sure the number of flyout lakes you have alone keeps that exploring spirit alive in all those guys. Hey.
For sure. I mean, we're fortunate to have some lakes that are even larger than Scott, and we've been fishing a couple of them since 2015 or 16, and we have still not been everywhere on them. And
Hmm.
that's getting some good miles on the boats every day. The guys are running around and burning 70 gallons of fuel to try and see what the next big fish spot is. But
Yeah.
I think it has kept it fresh, for them. And Scott itself being, there's about 250,000 acres of water from the dock that I think that there's enough varied fishing to do that
Yeah,
the guys are, you know, keeping engaged, keeping fresh, and then
for sure. So I guess when on your website there you mentioned the ratio of staff to clients there. You want to just touch on kind of the hospitality staff as well that you guys have?
yeah, again, we've been really working hard. We started out with a great returning guide crew, and we worked real hard to do the same in our kitchen and hospitality and maintenance staffs because anytime that we could not have to retrain someone and they kind of knew the program, it was easier just to hit the ground running in the spring with such a short season. So we've just really got a great core group that we've retained for almost 7, 8, 10 years in a lot of cases. And being able to do that and being able to have sort of this one-to-one ratio of guest to staff lets us do such a concentrated and concerted effort on our customer service. And it's just this personalized level of customer service that we've got this staff to buy into is very, very impressive. And it's amazing to see how the culture has grown and just come to be at Scott.
Yeah. And I think that's what would really help speak to, like, this isn't just remote luxury, right? Like I'm sure some people think of things out remotely like, oh, this is really good for remote. Like this is just, I would define it as luxury in general, right? Like this, the main lodge looks incredible. Like you said, you've done lots of renovations to lots of the buildings too. And having that returning staff plays into that luxury side of things too, right?
It really does. And, as we've sort of progressed, a lot of us in this career, we've been able to do some more thing. Now instead of just a few house wines, our wine list is fairly expansive. We've got a spa with a massage therapist. We've got a great happy hour bar and custom cocktails and things like that. So we're really growing with the demands of the clients and having people that know the basic thing, and we're being able to keep more people employed year round to add to this growth, we can sort of just look each year to do a little bit better and have something new and exciting for our customers.
Yeah, well, to me, that sounds like if there's some guys listening out there that have a wife that wants to do a trip with them, you could do a remote getaway. She can enjoy the spa, and you guys have lots of other activities outside of fishing that you can do as well. And then the guy gets to go fishing. It sounds like a pretty good win-win for me.
Oh, you bet. And I'll tell you what, we've been really, really doing our best to bring up more females and couples because I think, overall in the fishing lodge business, we've done not the best job marketing 50% of the population historically.
Hmm.
But don't kid yourself. The female and the new anglers, they listen to the guide and they do well right off the bat. I think that's, we see
Yeah,
people that have never fished and don't really want to fish go out and all of a sudden it's pretty fun. This isn't so bad. And they're
yeah.
listening to what the guide's telling them to do, and all of a sudden, like, okay, for 4 days we're fishing hard. This is all right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the very first set of people I guided was a guy and a gal, and it was pretty cool to see. You nailed it right on the head. The guy, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing, kind of thing, and they're very receptive. And all of a sudden, oh, she's got the biggest pike of the day and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And it's kind of funny to see. And with such a great guide staff too, like don't be afraid to bring new anglers or to bring your significant other because they're so good at teaching new people. And honestly, that's some of the most fun part as a guide is when you get some new people as well and get to kind of show them how awesome this sport is that we all love. So it's definitely open for anyone, not just the hardcore angler.
I think the reason why so many of us got into the guiding and outfitting side of it is being a part of those memories and being able to watch people discover these cool experiences that I think that we've had in the past and been able a little spoiled with.
Yeah.
But seeing the aha moment, like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is a cool part of the world, cool stuff that we're doing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, that is pretty sweet. So I guess one thing to mention for people that are thinking about making their way up there, all the gear is provided, correct?
You bet. Yeah, we have great rods and reels, Shimano rods and G Loomis rods and Shimano reels, and then we're an Orvis endorsed rod. So all our fly rods are and reels are Orvis. We got waders and wading boots for you if you're going grayling fishing. So no reason to bring your rod tube up unless you really wanted to throw your own gear. It's all waiting for you.
Right. And that's such a nice peace of mind to have. Like I know when I'm flying all my stuff up for the month that I'm there to guide, it's like, oh God, is it gonna make it? Is the rod tube gonna be there? First time I went up, rod tube didn't make it. And then I've seen how that can really ruin a trip, right? Because your gear's not there. So that's such a huge thing to not have to worry about that. Bring your clothes, stuff like that. And then you also know you're using what works there, what the guides know works and everything like that. And you don't have to worry about, oh, am I bringing the right rod setup or the right, like everything like that. Right. So that's huge.
It is indeed, and it's a little bit selfish for us as well because it goes more to that conservation side of things. If folks are bringing their pigtail 20-pound test mono that hasn't been changed in 10 years up, the chances of a fish breaking that off and a hook staying in a fish
Hmm.
is a little higher if we know that that line's fresh being changed out every group or every couple days that we're having the best opportunity to not throw hooks and fish and leave them swim away.
Yeah. And for anyone that knows any fishing, like those are all great names of products that you've got there to use too. And I guess the one question would be how many Johnson silver minnows do you guys have lined up in those tackle boxes?
We've got a couple rows of them for sure. It is not my favorite bait, but
Yeah.
being in the office, I don't get much of a say. They do work, they still work in the weeds, but
Yeah.
it is the hook guard on those is not very guide friendly.
No, that's I had never really even seen that until I went guiding, or maybe I saw it and just kept walking, but I've never seen more in my life since I started guiding. And like you said, they're not as guide friendly, but people love them for a reason. And so I always
They
like to ask
work
that
and
question.
it's tough to work them wrong.
Yeah.
You can just throw it out and retrieve it back any way you want, and the fish are gonna hit them. They are great lures, but I if it was up to me, I wouldn't be.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. And I guess since people don't got to worry about bringing their own fishing gear, what kind of weather and everything should you prepare for? Obviously, like I think I know the answer here, but for the people listening, what do you tell them to bring with them?
Well, there's two times of the year where we can tell people you got to be a little more ready for colder weather, and that's the first week of the season and the last week or two of the season. That's when we can, have things cool down to that like single digit overnight Celsius temps, and then a high of like 10 degrees. But typically, the range that we see would be in that the teens to the low 20s. That would be about an average that we see. But
Hmm.
this is summer in the north. It could
Yeah,
be 25 degrees and sunny one minute, then a big storm front rolls through and sideways rain and hail and everything. So
yeah,
you got to have good rain gear. That's a must-have on these trips. So sunglasses and rain gear are the two things you want to make sure that you've got good quality.
yeah. Well, sunglasses basically doubling as eye protection. I was told that from a young age. Wear them every time you're fishing, and that's just stuck with me. And you can't go wrong with a nice pair of polarized sunglasses too. Like when you mentioned the sight fishing there, that's gonna be huge.
It adds so much to it if you can actually see and participate in that sight fishing. We've got some stuff that we sell up there, but it's better to have something that you try on at home. It fits you real well, and
Yeah.
but be ready for anything. But also, one thing that I always see is people tend to overpack.
Hmm.
We do offer laundry services up there, so instead of having 5 days worth of outfits for fishing and stuff, you only need to bring one or two,
Yeah.
and just a good pair of rain gear and a couple layers.
Yeah, and I learned in my first year guiding too is it might look like it's supposed to be plus 20 and sunny all day, but still take your rain gear on the boat with you because you never know how quickly things can change.
Oh, indeed. And some days out in the middle of nowhere, the temp drops, 10 degrees if the front comes through. And once it's
Yeah,
raining and 10 degrees colder and the wind sideways, blowing the rain sideways, you want to be prepared.
right. And so now that they're at the lodge there, how many other clients can they expect to be enjoying the lodge with while they're up there for their trip?
So each week we have 26 people, um, and then that'll be the full house.
Yeah. And looking at the website there, like you guys have a pretty sizable main lodge there. And I know there's obviously different personalities that you get with clients and stuff like that. Some guys would be happy if they're a solo guy up in the woods, right? Doing their thing, and other people like the I don't know what word I want to use here, but being able to talk to everyone and get to know people. Like the people up there, you all up there for kind of the same reason, like-minded people, right? And so you get to
Hmm.
meet some awesome people. And I think that's a pretty comfortable size, in my opinion, right? Some places you're up around 100 people, and it's like that ain't for me. But when you're down in that lower number there, you can still do your own thing, but you can still also get to know people and enjoy getting to talk to them for 5 days there, right?
And we really have been seeing that where, the groups of guests who have come the same week for a number of years, they get to know each other because it's, a relatively small group. And then they have like group chats for that week going on
Yeah.
in the off season. But I think real importantly for us is that's the number that we think that we can offer a real high level of personal customer service as a staff. I think as you increase and increase, you'd have to have such a huge staff to keep up with that to be able to offer the same level of service
Hmm.
to a bigger group.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously everyone's travel is going to be a little bit different, but what's kind of the common point that they're coming to? Like if they're leaving their house, what's it typically look like for them to get from their house to the front door of their cabin?
Now, if you asked me this question before COVID, I would have bragged that you could do it all in one day. You could have
Okay.
breakfast at your place and have supper at our place. Obviously, commercial air travel has been, a little bit more fraught with delays and cancellations in the last number of years. But what we do is we get people to Edmonton, Alberta, and we try and recommend people show up the day before. It's just cheap insurance in case you have a missing bag or a delayed flight. You hop
Hmm.
on our charter. We take a Dash 8 from Edmonton to Stony Rapids, Saskatchewan, and then you hop on a float plane there. It's about a 50-mile ride into the lodge from Stony Rapids. a cool scenic flight over some hills, and you leave Edmonton at about 3 o'clock. You're up at our place by about 6 o'clock.
Okay. That's sweet. So they have a chance to see all the sand and everything like that?
No, we
No.
don't fly over that. We will if we've got planes sort of backed up. We'll have four full planes going at one time to get the guests in and out as quick as we can. We'll divert some over Lefty Falls, which is the largest
Okay.
waterfall in Saskatchewan, and then kind of a scenic.
Yeah, for sure. And for anyone who hasn't been on the float planes, it's incredible seeing. It's actually nuts how many lakes and stuff you're flying over on your way to whatever your final destination is. But it's just incredible seeing that, and you're not whatever it is 30,000 feet up where you can't see much. Like you get to see a lot and kind of immerse yourself in the whole thing and realize we're really out here.
Yeah, that's sort of the nice way to finish off your day of travels is you kind of get into that slower pace. You're flying lower. You might see some animals, and then land on the water, pull up to the dock, and away you go.
Yeah, I always like to when once I'm flying out at the end of the trip, trying to figure out, okay, where was it this bay we fished or was it that bay we fished? Because everything looks so different from the sky, and it's pretty cool to see. Kind of once you're done your trip, if it's been your first time there, be like, oh, this is where we went, and then you can see, oh, this is why we focused on this side of the bay or stuff like that, right? Like it's pretty neat doing that. So something fun to do when you're sad that you're leaving, but gives you takes your mind off the fact that you had to leave. But
You see a lot of guys that are, phones or GPS out when they're flying every single time, trying to look for weeds or look for reefs or things like that, and mark them on their phone real quick.
yeah, that's for people that don't know, there isn't much time where we're not thinking about that. If you wonder like, "Oh, how would you think to do that?" It's like, it's just because we're already thinking about it. And it's like, "Oh, yeah, let's pinpoint that." And you can be right above it, like you said, and being able to look straight down, you can see so much more than that, whatever, how tall you are, 5'9", 6 feet, standing in the boat too, right? So just
It
just
just
goes
make
to
just
learning
makes sense from that different perspective. You just see it on that little bit larger scale where you can put the pieces together of how the structure comes together.
for sure, for sure. So once the day of fishing's done, everything like that, back at the main lodge, what can people expect for their accommodations, their meals? Like what's kind of typical there?
So, two guests per cabin. So, and then there's a private bathroom in each cabin. Usually, people come two by two. Works out really well for that. So the cabins are all renovated. They're kind of a northern theme, like tongue and groove wood interior, nice modern furnishings, great beds, propane heater, and every we got Wi-Fi all throughout the island, Starlink, so people can keep up. If they want to. We really encourage people to disconnect a little bit and just enjoy their time with us and where they are. So once you get off the water, you can go down to the happy hour bar, the last cast, tell some fish stories, have a drink special. All the meals are up in the main lodge, other than shore lunch if folks want to do that. And so we sit down and eat, and they've got a choice of two or three different menu items that night. They order and then have some wine, have some drinks. We usually sit up around the bar, probably way too late, telling stories and just
Hmm.
getting to know folks and catch up with folks that we haven't seen maybe for a year.
Yeah, for sure. And so did I hear that right? The bar is a separate building from the main lodge?
Well, we've got two bars on a 12
Oh.
acre island. One wasn't quite enough, so we run one just for happy hour down on the waterfront, and then the main lodge has about 30-foot bar of nice live edge spruce that we flew up there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. It's always once you get a couple of drinks flowing, it's pretty fun telling the stories and everything like that, and especially the fish stories really become fish stories at that point.
Well, each evening we do what we call is fish porn, and so we show a photo slideshow of the big fish of the day, the animals that people saw, the kind of funny photos that the guides took when the guests weren't paying attention. So it's
Yeah,
kind of a cool way to do a highlight reel of the day and sort of let everybody know what happened, and then people get up and tell some stories, and one of our guides sort of is the MC of that every evening.
right. And so did I see correctly on your website, this kind of plays into kind of encouraging people not to be on their phones. You could leave your phone in your cabin all day because the guides are outfitted with cameras and stuff like that to give you a whole, I guess, picture video version of your trip, right?
You bet. Yeah. And I mean, I know everybody's got family and has got business to attend to, but it is such a neat deal when you can put your phone away and not have to worry about checking it. And the guide's going to take great photos and videos to try and give a real broad range, not just the grip and grins of the fish, but the shore lunch, the funny stuff that happens. Your fishing partner threw it up into the trees, fishing for squirrels, those sorts of events that
Hmm.
you can look back and have a daily sort of video and photo log of just the cool things that happen. We give you a USB at the end of the trip, and then you can share that with your friends and hopefully convince them to come up with next year.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. Even if you did take your phone on the boat, you've already got someone taking pictures. You're not going to have any service out there anyway, so you're just waiting to drop it in the water. So you may as well leave it in the cabin, not think about it, and enjoy your time there. So we're kind of nearing the end here, but do you want to kind of explain what you guys talk about with your honest price package on the website?
Yeah, we try and make an inclusive package price for what we offer. There, we include the rods and reels. We include the flights, we include house wine with supper, all the guiding, all the accommodations and food are all part of it. The extras that would be, not included if you wanted to go explore some of these fly out lakes, hop in the float plane for a day, that would be an additional charge. And beer and liquor if you were going to have some of that, and a massage
Nice.
and
Yeah, no,
gratuity. And
that's
I'd be remiss if I didn't say gratuities.
yeah. There you go. Part of the industry. I appreciate that
Yeah.
as a guide. So no, I think that's pretty sweet. I guess I wanted to mention too. This isn't just for conventional fishermen. Like you guys have a pretty big fly fishing base as well.
We do indeed. Yes, each guy's got 14 rods and reels that they're ready to go with. They've got spinning, bait casting, trout trolling, pike and trout fly rods and grayling fly rods and spinning. So we got everything set up for just about everything that we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we're sitting here. It's minus, I don't know, something like 25 today, and this is just getting me pretty jacked up for summer and open water fishing and everything. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to book or want to talk about booking and everything like that?
All our information is on the website, scottlake.lodge.com. You can link through to our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube from there. It's all at Scott Lake Lodge, and they'll see my contact and our sales manager, John J5, who's a guide that's been there 21 or 22 years with us. So we can both of us give you a good summary of what Scott's going to be all about. If you want to have fun, want to have a cool adventure, come fishing with us.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds awesome. I appreciate you taking your time to come on here talk about the lodge. Like you said, head over to that website. I got lost for like 2 hours on there just going around everything and just kind of totally forgot everything else that I had to do that evening because I was checking out the website. So you're definitely going to want to take a look at that and get a hold of these guys and book your next fishing trip. But thanks a lot for coming on.
Okay, thank you for taking the time and having me. Really appreciate it, and it's always fun. Always fun sharing a little bit of summer fish stories. As you mentioned, it's winter time, and especially this part of winter, we're starting to think ice fishing is over and it's time to get the long rods back out.
For sure. Thank you.